number of variables, a number of independent variables that you are having. Then beta is nothing but a vector of coefficients beta 0 up to beta k, and epsilon is the error epsilon 2 up to. Now, as is usual, for the least square estimate, what you will do, we will calculate the error. So, error, basically error can be plus positive errors or negative errors. That's why we take the square of the error. This square of the error can be represented by E transpose E, epsilon transpose with epsilon. This epsilon transpose can be written as y minus x beta transpose, and this epsilon is y minus x beta. Then you simplify this. Once you simplify, then you simplify. After simplification, you differentiate with respect to beta and equate it to 0, so that this beta hat or estimated value of the coefficients you can find out using this equation. Now look at it here. Yes, it has a it has.
So, please increase volume, sir.
Hello.
Volume. Sir, please increase volume, sir.
Okay, volume I can increase. Okay, fine, fine. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Uh,
Okay, sir. Okay,
okay,
sir.
okay.
Fine, sir. Continue.
So now volume is okay. Hello. So this type of equations you will get, and you can represent in this matrix form. Now this error can be calculated yi minus y hat, where y hat is the estimated value of the response. So yi is the actual value of the response, yi minus y hat, that will give you the error, or that is also known as the residual. So sum of squares of the error or the sum of the squares of the residual can be given by E transpose E. Now substituting all these values and all that and simplifying, then you can get sum of squares for the error will be y transpose y minus beta hat transpose and x transpose y. Then um, then this unbiased estimator of sigma can be given by sum of the square of the error divided by n minus p. This is what the theoretical aspect that we get. Now, if you look at, if you solve the same equation, same observations I have taken here, and then y is nothing but this column, response column, and x is nothing but the one column is added here only for beta 0 in the equation. Then x1 column and x2 column. Then use the MATLAB for getting all these equations. X transpose x and x transpose x in inverse. Then we will get this beta hat values. So we got an equation that 40.44 as beta 0 plus beta 1 is 0.775 x1 plus beta 2.325 x2. This is what the linear equation we have got at present for this experiment. Now we have to check whether this linear model is really workable or not. It is really good or not. So what you have to do for that, to check these, we estimate the error of the model using that model, then check the interaction terms, that is the cross product terms, and check the quadratic effect, whether this linear model is sufficient or any quadratic model or square term model is needed. So To check the error, what we have to calculate? First we calculate the y bar, that is the average value of the responses. So average value of the response is nothing but 39.3. This is what the response values, y values for the 9 experiment. So 39.3, 40.0 plus 40.9. So it is you take the average value, that is 40.444. Then sum of a square, for the total sum of a square will be nothing but yi minus y bar square, summation I equal to 1 to n. Summation I equal to 1 to n yi minus y bar square. So that can be 39.3 minus y bar is 40.44 square we have taken. So sum of square for the total is given 3.0022. So that is also here shown in the table how the calculation is made. Then sum of square for the residual or the error is nothing but actual values minus the predicted value by the equation. Y hat is the predicted value from the equation. So yi minus y hat square, sum of I equal to 1 to n. So this is shown. Y hat column is given here, that is predicted from the equation. Our equation is this one. Y hat equation is this. So we put the values of x1 and x2 in terms of minus 1 and minus 2. Sorry, minus 1 and plus 1. So we put, then we get the value of y hat. So SS residual, sum of squares for the residual is 0.1772. Similarly, sum of square for the model is y I hat minus y bar square, or it can be calculated sum of square from the total and sum of square from the minus sum of square of the residual. So sum of square for the model is calculated 2.8250. Now after that we calculate the sum of square for the pure error. Sum of square for the pure error can be calculated. We have conducted 5 experiments at the same parametric condition. So take the sum of those values. Say 40.3 plus 40.500 parametric condition. 40.3, 40.5 like that. So for that, take these 5 sum of these 5 values, that is 202.3. Then sum of square for the pure error will be yi square. Of course, I equal to 1 to nc is the number of center points or the same 00 points. So we have got 500 points here, minus y dot. Y dot is the sum of the points. So y dot square divided by nc is the number of center points. So that is 0.172. Sum of the square for the pure error. Sum of the square for the interaction is given by contrast square divided by r is the number of replicates multiplied by 2 the power k, where k is the number of factors. Number of factors here we have got 2 factors, that is the reaction time and reaction temperature. So 2 the power 2 will be 4. And for each experimental run, we have taken only one observation, no more than one observation. So if the number of observation under each parametric condition would have been 2, then R value would have been 2. But here we have taken 1. So R value will be equal to 1. Contrast is nothing but this interaction means x1 and x2 value. So this find out this x1 and x2. Here it will be, if you have a column here, x1 and x2, it will have plus 1, minus 1 multiplied by minus 1. So you will have a plus 1, then minus 1, then minus 1, and plus 1. So multiply this 39.3 multiplied by this contrast 1 multiplied by 1, then 40 multiplied by minus 1, 40.9 multiplied by minus 1, and 41.5 multiplied by 1. So that is what the contrast we have taken here. So contrast square divided by 4 to the power 2. So 4 r equal to 1. So we got sum of the square for the interaction is 0.0025. Then take the average of the factorial points. Factorial points are the first 4 points 1, 2, 3, 4. So average of the factorial points. Y bar C is the average of the center points, these 5 points, center points. So this is 40.46. Then pure quadratic, sum of the square for pure quadratic can be given by this formula. Number of factorial points multiplied by number of center points multiplied by average of the factorial points minus average of the center points square divided by number of factorial points and number of center points. So pure quadratic will be 0.0027. Now after that, you do some analysis of variance of the first order model. In the analysis of variance, what we do basically, all the experimental variations that we find, we assign to different factors or the interactions or the model like that. So total sum of square, some variation can be represented by the sum of squares. So total sum of squares is 3.002. So 3.0022 is written. Then for the model also we have calculated. For the model we have calculated 2.8250. So 2.8250. Then for the residual also we have calculated. For the residual it is 0.1772. 0.1772. Now look at the total degrees of freedom. Total degrees of freedom is 8. That is nothing but the number of experiments minus 1. So total number of experiments in this case is 9. 4 factorial points and 5 center points. Total 9 number of experiments we have conducted. So 9 minus 1, 8. So model degrees of freedom will be 2. Number of factors involved are 2. And so for the residual degree of freedom will be 8 minus 2, it will be 6. Now this residual sum of squares can be divided into 3 parts. One is for the interaction, which already we have calculated 0.0025. Then for pure quadratic, already we have calculated 0.0027. Then for pure error, we have also calculated 0.172. So this is what we have written here. Now for the interaction, degrees of freedom will be 1. For pure quadratic, degrees of freedom will be 1. And for the pure error, it will be 4. That is the number of center points minus 1. 5 center points are there, so 5 minus 4. And so then we calculate the mean square. Mean square is nothing but the sum of squares divided by the degrees of freedom. So 2.8250 divided by 2 is 1.4125. Then we calculate the F0. F0 is the mean square of a factor for the model divided by the pure error. We got the F value. It will give a F statistics or it is known as the Fisher statistics. So we got 47.82. When this calculated value is greater than the tabulated value, F value for the tabular in the table it is given. Then the calculated or computed value F value is greater than the tabulated value. We say that the factors or the interaction is significant or statistically significant. So here we got F0 value is 47.83. So it is much higher than the tabular value. So we say this model is perfectly all right or statistically correct at this point. And p value, probability value, can be given if you use the any software. Any software, then in that case, the value can be calculated. So comparing MS with the interaction to MS mean square with the interaction and mean square with the pure error, it will give you the lack of fit statistics. So F0 in this case is 0.058, which is small. So we can say that interaction is negligible. In the similar ground, the pure quadratic we got is 0.063, so which is small, indicates that the quadratic effect is also neglected. So both the interaction and the curvature checks are not significant, whereas the F test for the overall regression or overall model is significant. Now the standard error can be calculated using these equations that we will tell later. That I shall tell you later on how to calculate. Now, once you calculate this, you have checked this that at present the linear model is correct. Now, so we got the equation y hat is 40.44 plus 0.775 x1 plus 0.325 x2. Now what we can do, we can have is the linear model and go on checking the further points. So what we can do here, if we move 0.775 distance in x1 direction, we have to move 0.325 distance in the x2 direction, right? So our origin is at present 0, 0, that is 35, 155 in the natural variables. Then we take a delta, how much we will move from the current points. So we have to move 0.775 in x1 direction, and at the same time we have to move 0.325 in the x2 direction. So the slope of movement can be given by 0.325 divided by 0.775. So if you make in the x in natural variable terms for the reaction time, if you move in 5 minutes, then in the x2 direction, you can move by take 5 minutes as one in the coded variable in the x1 direction. Then you move in if delta x1 is 1, then in the delta x2 will be 0.325 divided by 0.775 multiplied by delta x1. So it will be 0.42. It will be 0.42. So in the x1 direction you move 1, then in the x2 direction move 0.42. So in the natural variable, in the you move 5, or the reaction time can be 5, or the temperature will be 2. So from the current operating conditions, we move in this way. So we from the origin, that is from 0, 0.2, you add delta, twice delta, 3 delta, 4 delta, 5 delta, like that, up to 12 delta. Now you go on conducting the experiment and note down these responses. Previously, we had a yield of 40. Now we see when we move in this direction and conduct the experiment at x1 is 10 and x2 is 4.2, or zeta 1 is 85, zeta 2 is 175, we reach at the yield of 80.3. Okay, so this is the new point you got, where the yield is simply doubled from 42 we go to 80.3. Now we have to check whether this model, what is the new point. Now we check here using a linear model. So we use a second first order model. Now here our current point will be 85 and 175. What we got here, 85 and 175. In the red mark it is given 85 and 175. So what we will search from zeta 1 value from 80 to 90 and zeta 2 value 170 to 180. In the coded form, it will be zeta 1 minus 85 by 5, and x2 will be zeta 2 minus 175 by 5. Then, as usual, as I have told the regression modeling, again we use a regression model. Then we got a equation like this: 78.97, 1 into x1 and 1.5 into x2. This is what the equation we got. Now check this equation again. You will conduct the analysis of variance. Now take the model, residual, interaction, pure quadratic, pure error, whatever the formula that I have shown you previously. Now you do it like this. Now if you check it here, say for the pure quadratic, f0 value is quite high, or p value is less than 0.05. To say that uh, now presently the linear model is not working, rather it needs a quadratic model. Right? So at this point we got that we need a linear model no more effective, we need a quadratic model. So at this point you use a quadratic model. So for the quadratic model, what you have to do, you use a central composite design, central composite design, where it is a simply a square having points 1, 1, 1 minus 1, minus 1 minus 1, minus 1, 1, and some center points as usual, then some axial points outside the square. So this axial points can be 1.4140. Here it is 0, 1.414. So we will have four, four factorial points, four axial points, and some center points. So center points we have taken five center points. So these four are first four are the factorial points, these corner points, the corner of this rectangle or square. Then four axial points, these points or axial points, and then five center points, that is the current operating conditions. Then we conducted the experiments. So there are 13 number of experiments we have conducted, and the response has been noted down. Now, as usual, we estimate the um, values of these coefficients. These coefficients we found out, and we found a model like 79.94. This is what the coefficient. So 79.94 plus 0.9951 x1 plus 0.5152 x2 minus 1.3763 x1 x2, then minus 1.01 x1 square, 0.25 x2 square. This is what the model we got. We can use a software for doing that. So here we have um, used a design expert software where the response surface methodology is there. Then we enter the data. The data has been entered. Then to go for once you go for analysis, then click on the model, and you select the terms that you want to put in the model. Then go to ANOVA, analysis of variance. Then you see that what you will get. Um, what you will get. This is model is significant. Then lack of fit should be not significant. Always remember, lack of fit should not be significant here. It shows not significant. Then it shows the pure error, and all these values it is shown. And you see, this is for the factor A is significant, factor B is significant, AB multiplied term, that is the interaction, A multiplied B, then square terms. is a significant. Okay. So now to get the equation like this, we will get two equations. One is the coded form and another is the actual form. Then you can diagonalize the model. Once you diagonalize the model, you can have the normal plot of the residuals. Normal plot of the residuals should say that your error is normally distributed. That means uh, all the error, that is the residual points, should lie around this line. So you can say it is the normally distributed. Then check the model graphs. You can get three-dimensional graphs like this. But this is for the AB, A and B, reaction time and the reaction temperature. Then you can have for other variables also, you can have how it is changing. Okay. So within the software, you can do many things. So this is what we have got, and residual is calculated, your error is calculated, sum of square for the residual and lake of it is also calculated here. What we got from the software manually, that has been calculated here. Then this normal plot, residual versus predicted. So residual, you see, um, these graphs also. Now, to check whether the model is correct or not, what we have to do, we have to find out a value called coefficient of determination, R square value. It is nothing but the sum of square for the model divided by the sum of square for the total. Sum of square for the model, we have found out here sum of square for the uh, sum of square for the model is 28.25 and sum of squares for the residual is 0.50. And sum of square for the total, you can also find out sum of square for 28.74. So for the model 28.25 and for the total 28.74. So take that sum of square for the model 28.25 and sum of square for the total 28.74, then you will get a R square value for the coefficient of determination, which is 0.9828. That means your model is correct one. The value of R square should be around 0.9 for the physical experiments. Of course, for the social science, this value can be 0.5 or 0.6, that may be acceptable. But when you conduct the physical experiment, the value should be around 0.9 so that you can accept that model. So here the R square value is 0.98, so it is accepted. Sometimes we calculate the R square adjusted, which is nothing but 1 minus sum of square for the residual divided by degree of freedom of the residual, sum of square by total divided by the degree of freedom of the total. We got for the R square adjusted is 0.9705. So R square adjusted and R square value should be nearly or almost equal. It may not be exact equal, but almost equal. So 0.98, we got 0.98 for R square value, and for R square adjusted, we got 0.97. So it is equally good. Now, when you calculate the R square adjusted value, suppose some insignificant factors are added in the model, then R square will go on increasing, giving a false impression that model is correct. In fact, the model may not be correct. So in that case, R square adjusted will be will not take that thing into account. When the non-significant factors are added in the model, the R square value or R square adjusted value will not go on increasing. Then some other statistics R square predicted can be calculated, then GIF can be calculated. Now this is what important. For each coefficient, we can calculate the um, the uh, um, confidence interval. Confidence interval we can calculate using this formula. This is the standard error for the coefficient beta 1, which is nothing but sigma square multiplied by C11, where sigma 1 square is nothing but the mean square for the residual. So mean square for the residual is got 0.071. C1 is the in the C11 is nothing but the these diagonal elements for the uh, factors or the coefficient involved. So it is 0.125 and residual is 0.071. Okay, so that's why we put it here 0.071 and 0.125. This 125 is calculated from x prime x inverse matrix, that is the diagonal element for uh, beta 1. So standard error of estimate is 0.0942. Then T value for the T statistics you can find. So this beta 1 confidence interval for beta 1 is 0.77 to 1.21. And in fact, A goes for beta 1, we got 0.99. That is okay, 0.99 we got, and the confidence interval is between these two. So once we get, we say that the quadratic model is working fine, that we have checked. Now next thing is to find out the best parametric condition. What will the best parametric condition? To find out the best parametric condition, the response surface, we can have a similar type of for the maximization condition, or we can have a this type of response surface for the minimization condition, or you can have a this type of which can give a saddle point. Okay, so how to get this? Now the question is this y value or predicted y hat predicted value can be written in the second order model that we have fitted, where x is all these xk variables, b is beta 1, beta 2 up to beta k, and this b is written like this. Now from this then differentiating these two, we can get the uh, and differentiating and equating to the 0. Then we get the stationary point y at s is beta 0 plus 1 by 2 x value like this. So this is for the what the y value, best y value you can get. And this is what the stationary points for or x1, x2 values you can get from it. So from this we can know beta or b here, what we have used b is nothing but 0.995 divided by sorry 0.995 and 0.515. That is, you see the equation. You see the equation here. X for x1 0.995, it is 0.99 written here, but 0.995, and for x2 0.515, 0.52 is written here. 0.51. And beta is the um, is a matrix where the main diagonals are pure quadratic coefficients. You see, pure quadratic coefficient, that is main diagonals, that is minus 1.376. It is written 1.38 for the square terms here, and this is x2 square term, that is 1.001, and this is what the half of the multiplicative terms x1 and x2, half of this x1, that is 0.125. Okay, so the b, small b, and capital B we found out. Then stationary point we can find out minus 1 by 2 beta inverse beta. So x1 can be 0.389 and x2 will be 0.306. So then put in the natural variables. So we got zeta 1 of the reaction time of 86.95 or 87 minutes, and similarly you can calculate the zeta 2 value, right, for the temperature. You can find out. And the maximum yield will be 80.21 if you put these values here, x1 and x2 values. So this is what it says, how to analyze a response surface methodology using statistical and mathematical models. Now the next question is, how many types of uh, response surface methodology exist? In fact, there are two types. One is the central composite design, CCD design, and another is the box Bunsen design. In the CCD design, central composite design, we will have, suppose, three factors I am taking. So we can have x1, x2, x3. So x, um, so this we can have factorial points. These factorial points are nothing but the corner points of a cube, and also you can have the axial points. Axial points are away from this center points. So there will be 2 to the power 3, 8 center, 8 factorial points, and 6 axial points, and some center points. This is what a central composite design. You can have another type of design that is not known as a box Bunsen design. This is for three factors. In the box Bunsen design, we use the here nothing is at the corner point, but all the points are at the middle of this middle uh, of the face. In each face, there will be 4 points, and in the face at the middle point. Okay, so this is what we call box Bunsen design. Now, central composite design, it consists of 2 to the power k factorial points, then nc center points, and y 2 into k axial point, where k is the number of factors that you consider. So the factorial points here, to the factorial points, can be a full factorial design or a fractional factorial design. But when you use a fractional factorial design, it should be of resolution, at least of resolution 5 or greater than that. Then the star or axial points in conjunction with the factorial and center points allows the quadratic terms of Bij to be estimated. Choice of axial distance makes the design rotatable. To provide reasonably stable variance of the predicted risk, generally 3 to 5 center rounds are recommended. Not more than 3 to 5 center points are sufficient. The axial distance, this axial distance is calculated by fourth root of the 2 to the power k. Suppose there are two factors, then it will be 2 to the power 2. Okay, this k will be equal to 2, so 2 to the power 2. So it will be 2 to the power 2. So 2 to the power 2 by 4. So this is to the root 2. Root 2 is 1.41. Root 2 is 1.41. So when there will be two factors, then the axial distance, this axial distance will be from this point to this point, the distance will be 1.41. So these are the different values of given. If k equal to 2, then axial distance alpha will be 1.41. When k will be 3, axial distance will be 1.68. When k will be 4, axial distance will be 4. The axial distance is always measured, always calculated using the fourth root of 2 to the power k. And if it is 5, then 2. So for the 7 factors, axial distance is calculated. Now there is a variation to the central composite design where your axial uh, distance is equal to 1. In that case, your um, this point, axial point, lies on the face of the cube. Face of the cube. If there are 3 points, then 3 factors are there, then it can be represented by cube. So it can lie on the face of the cube. In that case, all the factors will be given by only 3 levels, not more than 3 levels. All the factors can be given in 3 levels. So this is the central composite design for 3 factors given. Then this is a box Venkin design. In this design, in the box Venkin design, you I have told you that all the points lies on the middle of this space. Okay. Now here you see that all the factors will be represented in 3 levels: -1, 1, and 0. -1, 0, 1. Similarly, in the face-centered central composite design also, all the factors can be represented by -1, 0, and 1. So Fox-Venkin design is comparatively easy because you need not to change a factor too many times. Sometimes what happens in the actual experiment, you cannot change the factors as you like. So in that case, only 3 levels are sufficient. So this is what the different types of designs available in the in case of response surface methodology. Now come to a small uh, now come to an actual applications. So here what we have done, uh, uh, we conducted a laser drilling. Okay, so these are the some of the basics preliminaries on laser drilling. Different types of lasers, CO2 laser and DYZ laser. Uh, we have used a NDYZ laser, and then laser drilling was conducted um, on a composite made of aluminum and silicon carbide. Okay, that is this composite was made using the powder metallurgy route. Now, the average diameter of the pellets that will go to powder metallurgy route was 25 mm, and the average thickness of the pellet is 2.2 mm. And basically, we intend to make a hole of 170 micron. Okay, this is what the laser drilling was conducted. Then photograph is taken, micrograph is taken. Then 3 variables are taken. One is the pulse width, number of pulses, and concentration of silicon carbide. Uh, then for conducting the experiment, a face-centered central composite design is used. So we will have a three factors. So 2 to the 3. Um, um, 2 to the 3 factorial points, that is 8 factorial points. Then axial distance here it is 1, but there will be 6, so 2 into k, 2 into 3, 6 center points. So now A is the pulse width that we can take 400, 500, 600. Now these are found out what we can take, that is the limitation of the machine. The machine range is given. So we have taken pulse width low 400 and 600 as a high, because this machine is operating between these, these two limits. And number of pulses we have taken 1, 2, 3. And concentration of silicon carbide is 5% silicon carbide, 10% silicon carbide, and 15% silicon carbide. Now all these factors are converted into, all these factorial values are converted into, this is in the natural variable. So we have converted into coded variables using this equation. For conversion to the coding variable, there is no standard formula is available for you, but you have to find a formula for yourself, for your own experiment. Now suppose for the pulse width, suppose I take uh, 400, the natural variable is 400. 400 minus 400 plus 600 divided by 2, that is 500. So 400 minus 500 divided by 600 minus 400, that is 200. So 400 minus 500 minus 100 divided by 200. So that is minus 1 by 2. Then here we multiplied by 2. So it will be minus 1. If you take 500, then 500 minus this is 500. So it will be 0. So for 500, it will be 0. Then I take 600, then it will be plus 1. Right? So this is the formula we devised for our problem. Then we did it. Then we conducted the experiment. There are total 20 experiments have been conducted. Is last one, what last uh, from 15 to 20. These are the center points. So there are 6 center points, and you see there are 8 factor 2 to the 3, 8 factorial points, then 6 uh, 6 axial points. Then we found out the response as taper of the hole, then sputter when the laser light falls on that, then at the beginning there will be sputter or the metal flow out. So the sputter area we have measured, then heat affected zone. So these are the 3 responses we have estimated. Then that has been solved, and you see this is another table for the um, um, taper. This is the another table for the sputter. This is the another table for the heat affected zone, and also we got the equation for all that. Okay, so all these are given here. Then we conducted the residual analysis, and we found that residuals are normally distributed. Then R square value, all these are found out. Then we say the model is correct. Now, one thing is that it is important to see how does from the get some idea from the 3D surface plot. Now you see here, this is the surface plot for the number of pulses with pulse width. Okay, so it can be seen that increase in number of pulses, increase in number of pulses cause taper to decrease significantly. You see here the number of pulses, if the number of here number of pulses is 1 and here number of pulses is uh, 3. 3. So from when the number of pulses increases, your taper, this is for the taper decreases significantly for a particular pulse width value. Pulse width value, take any value, then it decreases. The trend is same for all concentration of silicon carbide. So when the number of pulses uh, increases with pulse of time decreases, and as a result, an excessive number of pulses break through the material, increase in the hole diameter at exit, and therefore produces a low height taper. It is also observed that the tapering of the holes at 5% concentration of silicon carbide is maximum, and it decreases when the concentration increases from 5 to 10%, and again the tapering shows a marginal increase when the concentration increases to 15%. This is what we have. So, if you analyze this graph, then this is what the concentration of silicon carbide. So when the silicon concentration uh, tapering of the hole at 5% concentration is the maximum, and it decreases when it goes to 5 to 10%. When it goes to 15%, again slightly it increases irrespective of the pulse width. So we can analyze all the um, all these graphs as you like to see here. These are the micrograph. This is for pulse width of 400 microsecond. Number of pulse is 1 pulse per second, and the concentration of silicon carbide is 15%. Here the pulse width is 600, number of pulses is 3, and the concentration of silicon carbide is 15%. So it is noted that higher the pulse width and the number of pulse width and the number of pulses, the higher is the sputter. Sputter is this area. You see, when pulse width increases and number of pulses increases, if you compare these two graphs, your sputter area, this area, sputtering area, that increases. Look at, compare these two micrographs. Similarly, this is for the pulse width of 400 microsecond, and number of pulses is 1, and concentration is 5%. Here, everything same, only the concentration increases to 15%. It can be observed that a sputter increases with increase in concentration of silicon carbide in the sample, irrespective of the pulse width and the number of pulses. However, the sputter area decreases with an increase in concentration of silicon carbide when the number of pulses low. So, you see here, this is the pulse width of 400, number of pulses 1, and the concentration is 15%. And here the pulse width is 600, number of pulses 3, and the concentration is 5%. If you see that, it can be seen that higher the pulse width and number of pulses, higher is the heat affected zone, because the laser energy increases. If the number of pulses increases and number of pulses increases, laser energy increases. So the more heat goes, so higher will the heat affected zone. But the higher the concentration of silicon carbide in the metal matrix composite, the more decrease of the heat affected zone. But if the concentration increases, heat affected zone decreases, because the fact that thermal conductivity of the silicon carbide is more than that of the aluminum. So this is, so we can get, once you analyze, conduct the experiment, get the equations, and analyze all the graphs, then you can find out really what happens with the process. Similarly, there is another example that we have shown, that is the electrical discharge machine. Here, AISI D2 steel is taken, then tool is the pure brass, then conducted the experiment, and then four variables are considered, that is the discharge current. Discharge current can be different levels, 3, 5, and 7. Pulse on time, then duty factor. Duty factor is nothing but the pulse on time divided by pulse on time plus pulse of time, of the total cycle time, uh, and the flushing pressure. And all the variables are coded. Now here we have used a box Venkin design. In the box Venkin design, all the factors will be at 3 levels. So this is what a box Venkin design, and conducting an experiment. 27 experiments have been conducted, and this is for the discharge current, then pulse on time, duty factor, and the flushing pressure. Then the job is to calculate material removal rate, tool wear rate, surface roughness, and the circularity. Material removal rate is usually calculated by measuring the sample before experimentation and measuring the sample after the experimentation. So what is the weight loss? From that weight loss, you can calculate the material removal rate. Similarly, tool wear rate is calculated. Take the weight of the tool before experiment and take the weight of the tool after experiment, then calculate the tool wear rate. So that we are calculating the weight loss. And surface roughness is basically RA value is calculated. Average surface roughness value is a Taylor-Hobson surface roughness measuring instrument. Then the circularity is calculated using a by using the Farad diameter. Farad diameter, uh, when in a die sinking EDM machine, when you make a hole or make the material removable, uh, it will not be a perfect circle. So what we do, whatever the cylindrical shape we got or circular shape we got, then use the two tangent, use the tangent considering the maximum diameters. So we can have a maximum diameter as well as make the tangent so that minimum diameter can be obtained. So the ratio of maximum diameter to minimum diameter is taken as the Farad diameter or Farad ratio. Um, so uh, if your it is a perfectly circle, then you can have the value, the Farad diameter R1 by R2 value will be equal, or D1 by D2 value will be equal to 1. If it is not circular, then you will get a different value. So circularity is measured like this. So you take the image of the figure, then put in the MATLAB, then go to the image processing software and join the tangents and calculate R1 and R2, then take that ratio. So the circularity can be measured. This is a very simple technique. So the results are shown here using that design expert software. Then you see the material removal rate, N over for the material removal rate, then N over for the tool wear rate, N over for the then for the circularity, N over for the circularity. You see, all the point is lack of it is non-significant. This is for the circularity. So you can have uh, dimensional model graphs you can have. Um, So you can rotate these model graphs and you can find it. So you can interpret the model graphs. Uh, so this is what in short what is the response surface methodology. There are many good books are available on response surface methodology. Go to the design of experiment by Montgomery and Myers and Montgomery. The name of the book is response surface methodology. Uh, so you can you can find a good number of papers, recently published papers using to different techniques like additive manufacturing, uh, wire electrical discharge machining, then all kinds of machining. So and they have analyzed using response methodology and developed the equations. Then these equations are sometimes powerful equations are being developed, and that can be utilized for optimization also. So to this, I want to stop my discussion. You can ask me any question regarding this. Okay, please.
Uh, Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge with us. All our participants to unmute if you have any queries asking. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Any queries?
Hello.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. बोलिए.
You can ask me any question right now. Any participant, do you have any question? Hello? Hello? Is it audible to everybody? Hello? Is it audible? Yes, sir, please. Hello? Hello?
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us. And you who are working in, who are involved in research work, doing some research work. They know very well about the research response surface methodology. This is a very important methodology, which sir already explained that how to implement RSM and how to use this software. Through his knowledge, I know something. Essentially, is a collection of criteria to decide in what points visual region or experimental should be made. And in such a way, prediction can be made more and researchers are able to define this problem. So, sir, thank you for sharing your knowledge, and you have given useful knowledge regarding RSM method. So, I would like to invite Professor Anil Salate for sharing his views with us. Professor Anil Salate, sir.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Please.
I am
Good
Anil
afternoon,
Sarate.
Okay.
On the behalf of Vaishnavi Group of Institution Bhopal, I, Anil Sarate, would like to propose you vote of thanks to each and everyone who have contributed for the overwhelming success of today's first session program. I should first thanks to our Honorable Chairman Mr. Mukesh Patidar and Mr. Rahul Patidar, Secretary Vaishnavi Group of Institution, for making it convenient. I extend my grateful thanks to Dr. S.S. Mahapatra Professor and Head, Mechanical Engineering Department, National Institute of Technology, Raulkela, Odisha, for his gracious presentation on the response surface methodology. I extend my sincere thanks to our Director, Dr. R.S. Sikirwar, Principal Madam, Dr. Priya Dubey, Mr. Surendra Singh Thakur, and all the faculty members of their supports. I also extend my sincere thanks to all the participants in this program and making it a success. I also request to all the participants to attend the second session of this program. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
One more information, all participants are requested to fill a feedback form because it will open up to 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we will remove feedback link. So please fill feedback form immediately. So sir, thank you sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you sir, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm leaving now. Okay.
Okay sir. So we'll leave now and we'll meet 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. for the next session, for the second session, and which will lecture delivered by Dr. Sudesh Sani, Vice Chancellor of RKDF University. So all participants are requested to join at scheduled time of FDP. Thank you to all of you for sharing your valuable time with us. Thank you.